Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Once again, I'm Nev from Nev's Tech Bits, and in no other time other than 2020 has it been more important for us to give back to the community, for us to take a look around, stop, look, and listen, see where there are issues within the world, and do whatever we can to change them, even on a minute level. And fair pay or fair trade is a big deal, a big thing that's been going on in the last decade or two, where we make sure that the people that we get our bananas and our cocoa from will get a good amount of money to raise themselves off, and that the middlemen don't get all the money. Now, that is definitely happening when it comes to technology and China. Not just China, but all of the raw materials that China uses to make things comes from Africa. Not all of it, but the lion's share of it, especially the rare earth metals. And the problem that we're running into is well, slavery ultimately in China. Situations where people don't agree with the government, or if they're criminals, they're forced to do work with for the government in order to make cheap things for Americans or people outside of the country. Remember, in China, it's all about the country, not the individual. But those don't really subscribe to westernized value. Anyways, a lot of the stuff that they get comes from, a lot of the raw materials comes from Africa, where they're mined in horrible conditions with slave labor for the most part. Not, I shouldn't say for the most part, but there definitely is slave labor going on over there. And in the end of it, we get a phone in our hands, and all we care about is having the lowest price. And we don't really think too much about all of the stuff going on. Anyways, we have an answer to that: the Fairphone. Well, it definitely is a lot more expensive. We can sustainably have cell phone technology from the earth to your pockets. A smartphone's journey is filled with unfair practices. Yeah, they definitely have unfair practices over in China too. Let's face it, Foxconn doesn't have suicide nets up outside of their building for nothing. Seriously, check it out. It's harsh over there. If you don't believe what the government tells you, man, if you don't walk that government line, you're going to be doing a lot worse than stamping license plates, that for sure. And if you really don't like the government, well, you'll just disappear. But by buying cheap technology made in China, a lot of the times we do that. Kind of like saying sometimes it used to be a certain point in time, if you bought Nikes, you were supporting slave labor. I believe that we have shoes that are made for fair trade, but now we can get our electronics from this. And I want to see all of the people who are shouting for change in society to jump on this bandwagon and to spend more money for their electronics for this smartphone, a fairer phone. With every phone we make, we get closer to a fair and more sustainable electronic industry, from responsible material sourcing, that's very important, to advocating for workers' welfare. We share all of our results freely and set a new standard for the entire industry. So a lot of the people that work the ground to pull the dragons up from the ground, to pull up what we need to sustain ourselves, even when it comes to farming, a lot of the times a farmhand isn't paid very much. In fact, within Canada, we bring people up from other countries in order to harvest our food, or else our food would not be worth an affordable price, unfortunately. But we have to look after all of the people that pull together all of this stuff. We need to be reasonable, and we cannot expect to have electronics that have blood on them ultimately from unfair practices, and this is a great way to get around it. Now, it's always easier to throw shade on someone than it is to bring them up, and that's one thing I want to point out with this new social justice thing that we got right now. I bet not many people are going to go out and get this phone, but they're quick to jump on Twitter and take each other down, not just each other, but other companies. One thing I was looking at is called the Essential Phone. I was looking up information from, and I went to the Reddit. Our Essential Phone, what? Essential is a terrible company? Buy Fairphone instead? What? This is actually how I found out about Fairphone, but so this is Andy Rubin. Andy Rubin made the Essential Phone, and he is ultimately the father of Android. Apparently, he was having an extramarital affair, and something happened. We don't know exactly what. Something happened, and the person he was having an extramarital affair with says, allegedly, the New York Times says, allegedly, this individual performed fellatio on him at his request, even though she really didn't want to, and that got him kicked out of Google. Allegedly, that information is from the New York Times linked article. Anyways, we're all real quick to throw shade on this individual, and once again, people are jumping online to make sure that nobody can create a Reddit for him. His company is closed now, but everybody loves Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs, there was that Lisa thing, he denied his girlfriend that he was actually having that she was actually having his child. She named it Lisa. He denied that it was his, but he still made another computer named Lisa. I don't even think he needed to make another computer named Lisa, because both of those companies or both teams were working against each other. I think it was the Macintosh and the Lisa fighting each other. But it's interesting how wrapped up in all of this stuff we get. But are we willing to put our money where our mouths are? Ladies and gentlemen, the Fairphone 3 is out, and I can't find anything about the Fairphone 1 or 2. Now, if we come on over to control, or see the Fairphone price, and here's the individual. He looks a lot like Steve Jobs. Once again, he's on the right over here. Once again, this individual created Android, and we kicked him out. Too bad we didn't have those same social justice ideals back when Steve Jobs was running Apple. These days he's a god, right? Anyways, so this phone is at least $1,000 Canadian, I'm thinking. No less than that. Let's say it's 750, and we'll compare it to an LG G6. Now, if we look at a lot of what it's got, we don't got all the bells and whistles here. It's definitely not the fastest thing. LG G6 is what, 3 years old by now? And these guys are bringing out a new phone. But seriously, it's you don't need much more than this. And if that's the price for not having blood on my hands, then that's okay. Then that's okay with me. Oh, it has Galileo. That's interesting. GLONASS. Now, what those are is you get GPS, but GLONASS, I think that's the Russian version of GPS, and Galileo is the European version. And sensor to get the fingerprint. Really, do we need all of this stuff? I don't think so. Strangely enough, you know what? Let's see what the Essential phone has. Okay, so here we have it right up next to the Essential phone. The Essential phone's, geez, 3 years old now. It's already all the way up to Android 10, and the Fairphone is 9.0. I definitely recommend you get the Fairphone though. Like, these specs are definitely different, but you'll be a better person. You'll be a better person if you get the Fairphone. But it's interesting. It is interesting that now we have this availability to this phone. Why isn't everybody hearing about this? Why aren't celebrities jumping on board with this phone? And why aren't we backing this? Why aren't we putting more money into this? If we believe in everything that we complain on Twitter about when it comes to people not doing the right thing, how about we jump on Twitter and we say, hey, all you famous people, you should be using this phone. Fair use phone. Everyone's worried about their fair use or their fair trade avocados and bananas and all this stuff. But seriously, we should be backing the Fairphone as reasonable individuals who care about the world. I think it's time that we stepped up, we put our money down, and we bought the Fairphone. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for me. I'm Nev from Nev's Tech Bits. Like and subscribe if you like the stuff. It's always appreciated. And as always, folks, take care of each other.